Hello! Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everything in between. Here we are again. It is Thursday, July 14th, 2011, and here we are again. I guess I already said that, didn't I? Oh well. Okay, so, let's see. So I liked how yesterday's video turned out. I think I'm just going to keep working on that and try to just develop my regular speaking voice instead of going with the really high-pitched one. So I don't know, we'll see how this ends up turning out, and we'll see how that ends up going. Let's see, as always, I'm Tanya, and let's see, today we are at Chapter 5 of Sun Tzu, Chapter 5, Energy. Go get a Red Bull. They still sell Four Loko. That's good stuff. Anyway, okay, so let's see, we're at Chapter 5, Energy, from Sun Tzu's The Art of War. And, as always, the text from Project Gutenberg, source for all ancient copyrighted works. And this is voice practice number 19. Wow, he's really gone fast. Okay, so let's see, we're gonna do this. As always, these voice practice videos is just a chance to practice my voice a bit, make a fool of myself a little bit. But it's a long road, but we're at video 19, and I think I've made up some good progress. So we'll see how things go, but let's get cracking. So here's how it works. Alright, so hello. Okay, Chapter 5, Energy. 1. Sun Tzu said, the control of a large force is the same principle as the control of a few men. It is merely a question of dividing up their numbers. That is, cutting up the army into regiments, companies, etc., with subordinate officers in command of each. Tu Mu reminds us of Han Sen's famous reply to the first Han Emperor, who once said to him, how large an army do you think I could lead? Not more than 100,000 men, your majesty. And you? Asked the officer. And you? Asked the emperor. Oh, he answered, the more the better. 2. Fighting with a large army under your command is no wise different from fighting with a small one. It is merely a question of instituting signs and signals. To ensure that your whole host may withstand the brunt of the enemy's attack and remain unshaken, this is effected by maneuvers direct and indirect. We now come to one of the most interesting parts of Sun Tzu's treatise, the discussion of the Cheng and the Qi. As it is by no means easy to grasp the full significance of the two terms, or to render them consistently by good English equivalents, it may be as well to tabulate one of the famous commentators' remarks on the subject before proceeding further. Li Chuan, facing the enemy is Cheng, making lateral diversion is Qi. Facing the enemy is Cheng, making lateral diversion is Qia. Qi. Qia Lin. In presence of the enemy, your troops should be arranged in normal fashion, but in order to secure victory, abnormal maneuvers must be employed. Mei Yao Qian. Qiao is active, Cheng is passive. Passivity requires waiting for an opportunity. Activity brings the victory itself. Hoshi. We must cause the enemy to regard our straightforward attack as one that is secretly designed, and vice versa. Thus, Cheng may also be Qi, and Qi may also be Cheng. The instances the famous exploit of Han Sen, who in marching ostensibly over Lin Qin, now Qiao in Shanxi, substituted a large force across the Yellow River in wooden tubs, utterly disconcerting his opponent. Qian Han Su, Chapter 3. Here we are told the march on Lin Qin was Cheng, and the surprise maneuver was Qi. Cheng Yu gives the following summary of opinions on the words. Military matters do not agree with regard to the meaning of Qi and Cheng. Wei Liao Tzu, 4th century BC, says, direct warfare favors frontal attacks, indirect warfare attacks from the rear. Cao Kung says, going straight out to battle, join battle is a direct operation. However, appearing on the enemy's rear is an indirect maneuver. Liu Wang Ku, 6th and 17th 6th and 7th century AD, says, in war, to march straight ahead is Cheng. Turning movements, on the other hand, are Qi. Qi, I don't know. These writers simply regard Cheng as Cheng and Qi as Qi. They do not note that they are mutually interchangeable and run into each other like the two sides of the circle. A comment on the Cheng Emperor Taizing goes on to the root of the matter. The Qi maneuver may be Cheng if we may make it look upon as Cheng. Then our real attack will be Qi, and vice versa. The whole secret lies in confusing the enemy, so that he cannot fathom our real intent. To put it perhaps a little more clearly, any attack or other operation is Cheng, on which the enemy has had his attentions fixed, whereas that is Qi, which takes him by surprise or comes from an unexpected quarter. If the enemy perceives a movement which is meant to be Qi, it immediately becomes Cheng. 4. That the impact of your army may be like a grindstone dashed against an egg. This is effected by the science of weak points and strong. 5. In all fighting, the direct method may be used for joining battle, but indirect methods will be needed to secure victory. Cheng Yu says, steadily develop indirect tactics, either by pounding the enemy's flanks or falling on his rear. A brilliant example of indirect tactics which decided the fortunes of a campaign was Lord Roberts' night march round Peshawar Kotal in the Second Afghanistan War. 6. Indirect tactics efficiently applied are inexhaustible as heaven and earth, unending as the flows of rivers and streams. Like the sun and moon, they end but to begin anew. Like the 4 seasons, they pass away to return once more. Tu Yu and Cheng Yu understand this of the permutations of Qian and Cheng, but as present Sun Tzu is not speaking of Cheng at all, unless indeed we suppose with Cheng Yu Sen that a clause relating to it has fallen out of the text. Of course, as has already been pointed out, the two are so inextricably interwoven in all military operations that they cannot readily be considered apart. Here we simply have an expression in figurative language of all the almost infinite resources of a great leader. 7. There are but 5 musical notes, but yet their combinations of these 5 give rise to more melodies than can ever be heard. 8. There are not more than 5 primary colors, blue, yellow, red, white, and black, yet in combination they produce more hues than can ever be seen. 9. There are not more than 5 cardinal tastes, sour, acrid, sweet, and bitter, yet combinations of these yield more flavors than can ever be tasted. 10. In battle, there are not more than 2 methods of attack, the direct and the indirect, yet those 2 in combination give rise to an endless series of maneuvers. 11. The direct and the indirect lead on to each other in turn. It is like moving in a circle. You never come to the end. Who can exhaust the possibilities of their combination? 12. The onset of troops is like the rush of a torrent which will even roll stones along in its course. 13. The quality of decision is like the well-timed swoop of a falcon which enables it to strike and destroy its victim. The Chinese here is tricky on a certain key word. In the context it is used defies the best efforts of the translator. Tu Mo defines this word as the measure or estimation of distance, but the meaning does not quite fit the illustrative simile in SS-15. Applying this definition to the falcon, it seems to me to denote the instinct of self-restraint which keeps the bird from swooping on its quarry until the right moment. together with the power of judging when the right moment has arrived. The analogous qualities in soldiers is the highly important one of being able to reserve their fire until the very instant at which it will be most effective. When the Victory went into the action of Trafalgar at hardly more than a drifting pace, she was for several minutes exposed to a storm of shot and shell before replying with a single gun. Nelson coolly waited until he was within close range, when the broadside he had brought to bear worked fearful havoc on the enemy's nearest ships. 14. Therefore the good fighter will be terrible in his onset and prompt in his decision. The word decision would have reference to the measurement of distance stated above. Let the enemy get nearer before striking, but I cannot help thinking that Sun Tzu meant to use the word in figurative sense, comparable to our own idiom, short and sharp. C.F. Hanix's note, which after describing the Falcon's mode of attack proceeds, this is just how the psychological mode should be seized in war. 15. Energy may be likened to the bending of a crossbow, decision to release into a trigger. Note, none of the commentators seems to grasp the real point of the simile of energy and force stored up in the bent crossbow until released by the finger on the trigger. 16. Amid the turmoil of battle, there may be seeming disorder, and yet no real disorder at all. Amid confusion and chaos, your army will without head or tail, your array may be without head or tail, you'll be proof against defeat. Mai Yaoqian says the subdivisions of the army having been previously fixed, and the various signals agreed upon, the separating and joining, the dispersing and collecting will take place in the course of battle, may give the appearance of disorder when no real disorder is possible. Your formation may be without head or tail, your dispositions all topsy-turvy, and yet a rout of your forces quite out of the question. Alright, so that'll do it for tonight. I think I'm going to cut it off there. We'll pick up at verse 17 in chapter 5 tomorrow. As always, I'm Tanya. The text is from Project Gutenberg, and keep trying, and good night, and good luck.